Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Priyanka Neela Krishnan Show with me, Priyanka Neela Krishnan. This is Enterprise Security Series, episode 46, and today's topic When the Agent Holds the Keys. And this is the final of our 10 episode arc. So, if this is your first one, welcome, and then go back and watch the rest. Just the past 10 so that you understand it completely and you can tie the loop because everything converges here in this video. My standing note first, this is my independent commentary, my own views, not tied to any employer, product or vendor. Today, we are talking about the risk that ties the entire arc together, the AI agent. For 20 years, security assumed a human somewhere in the loop. Someone who could be fished, but who could also hesitate and stop. Agents remove the hesitation. They hold real access. They act at machine speed, and they can be manipulated through the very data they read. Over the next 15 minutes, I'll show you why the agent is every risk in the series at once. Moving faster than anyone can watch, and what to govern before you ever let one run. This is the episode the whole arc was building toward. Let us finish it. Everything we have covered in this arc of the 10 assumed a human somewhere in the loop. A person to fish, a person to train, a person who takes a few minutes to think. That assumption is dissolving. AI agents are moving into production that read your data, call your systems, and take actions on their own at a speed and scale no human reviewer can match. They are, in effect, a new kind of identity holding real keys, and the governance around them is basically in years behind their adoption. This is the last episode of the arc, and it is the one the whole series of 10 was building toward. And I am Priyanka Neela Krishnan, and let us talk about the agent. Let me name the assumption that quietly underpinned this entire series and every security program you have ever run. For 20 years, security assumed a human on the other end of every session, every credential request, every decision. Someone who could be fished, but who could also hesitate, notice something wrong, and stop. That assumption is ending, and faster than almost anyone planned for. The AI agent accessing your production database at 3 in the morning does not authenticate the way your analyst does. It does not respect the same governance boundaries by instinct. And it does not pause to think because it operates at a speed and scale no human reviewer can match. It is a new kind of identity and it holds real keys to your data. Every principle we have covered in this arc, identity, access, governance, gets its hardest test here because the agent combines the reach of a privileged machine identity with the autonomy of a human and none of the caution of either. Let me name the stakes plainly because this is where the whole series converges. Every principle we have covered assumed a human somewhere who could hesitate. An agent removes the hesitation, it holds delegated authority, it acts at machine speed, and it introduces a risk with no human equivalent. It can be manipulated through the data it reads because an agent that ingests untrusted content can be steered by instructions hidden inside that content. So the agent combines the broad reach of a privileged machine identity with the autonomy of a human decision maker and the caution of neither. That is not a small extension of the identity problem. It is the identity problem, the access problem, and the governance problem all at once, moving faster than anyone can watch in real time. Here is why the agent breaks the old model laid out plainly. A human user on the left is slow and can hesitate. They authenticate predictably, they act at human speed, and crucially, they can notice that something feels wrong and stop before harm is done. That pause is where a lot of our security actually lives, even if we never designed it that way. An autonomous agent on the right is fast and does not pause. It holds delegated authority to act on your behalf. It can chain actions across multiple systems in seconds, and it introduces an entirely new risk. It can be manipulated through the very data it reads, because an agent that ingests untrusted content can be steered by instructions hidden inside that content. So, oversight cannot be something you apply after the fact by reviewing what happened. By the time you review, the agent has already acted possibly hundreds of times. Oversight has to be built into the agent's access and its guardrails before it ever runs. Let me dwell on the manipulation risk because it is the part that is new. A human analyst who reads a suspicious document can recognize that something is off and disregard it. An agent that reads the same document may treat instructions embedded in it as commands because it cannot reliably tell content from control. So, an attacker no longer needs to phish a person. They can plant instructions in data the agent will process. A support ticket, a web page, a file, and let the agent carry out the attack with its own legitimate access. That is why oversight cannot be after the fact. By the time you review the logs, the agent has already acted, possibly hundreds of times. So, at a speed no human reviewer could have even interpreted or interrupted. Oversight has to be designed into the agent's access before it ever runs. Here is the pace, and the pace is the whole problem. Gartner projects that by the end of 2026, 40% of enterprise applications will embed task-specific AI agents, up from less than 5% at the start of the year. Sit with that curve for a moment. We are going from almost none to nearly half in a single year. Compare that to past shifts. When cloud created new attack surfaces, we had years to adapt. The move from on-premises to cloud took the better part of a decade, and we still struggle with it, as this whole series has shown. The shift from human-operated to agent-operated environments is measured in quarters. The attack surface is not expanding gradually, it is being deployed into production right now at speed by teams under pressure to ship AI capabilities. And the controls are not keeping up. This is the cloud migration compressed into a fraction of the time, and we are less prepared for it than we were for the cloud. Let me stress the compression because the speed is the danger. Going from under 5% to 40% of enterprise applications embedding agents in a single year is not a normal technology curve. When cloud created new attack surfaces, we had years to adapt and we still struggled, as this whole series documents. This shift is measured in quarters. 3 months. Information security spending is projected around $244 billion this year. And even so, the agents are entering production far faster than the controls around them. teams under pressure to ship AI capabilities are deploying autonomous systems with real access to data. And the governance is an afterthought. We are repeating the cloud mistake: deploy first and govern later, except this time we do not have years and we only have months. All right, two numbers that capture the gap between deployment and governance. First, according to the Gravity State of AI Agent Security Report for 2026, mean monitoring coverage of AI agents sits at just 52%, which means roughly 48% of AI agents running in production today are unsecured. Nearly half are operating with no real monitoring at all, holding access to systems and data, taking autonomous actions unwatched. Second, Gartner predicts that by 2027, 40% of enterprises will demote or decommission autonomous AI agents specifically because of governance gaps. And here is the painful part: gaps that get discovered only after a production incident. So the pattern is already visible. Agents are being deployed at roughly 7 or 8 times the rate that organizations are building governance around them. We are repeating the exact mistake the series has documented over and over. We deploy the capability first and we govern the data and access afterward, usually after something breaks. Let me connect these numbers to how unprepared we are. Roughly 48% of production agents run unsecured, with mean monitoring coverage around half, and only about 6% of organizations report having an advanced AI security strategy. By the way, let me pause here and let you know that I have written a couple of security books. One is Autonomous Data Security, and number two is Jailbreaking LLMs. That is, how LLMs are being used in your organization and how you should think about using them or inculcating them into your models and the agents and things like that. So it would be useful. I strongly believe it's going to be really helpful. So Autonomous Data Security book is about 395 to 400 pages. And Jailbreaking LLMs is a little over 600 page, around 600. It's a really thick book on jailbreaking LLMs, and I've given a really good amount of thinking and thought with my experience in enterprise security for over a decade in large enterprises, and my general interest in towards cybersecurity and data protection, which I believe is a noble profession to be in. All right, please do check it out and let me know what you think about it, and was it useful, and what type of value did the books add to your enterprise journey. All right, so coming back to the presentation. So the agents are entering production at something like 7 or 8 times the rate that organizations are building governance around them, and Gartner expects a wave of decommissioned agents by 2027. Killed not proactively, but after production incidents reveal the gaps. That is the pattern of this entire series in its purest form. We deploy the capability, we discover the governance gap through a breach, and we clean up afterward. The agents just made that pattern faster and higher stakes, because an ungoverned agent does not wait to be exploited. It can be turned against you the moment it reads the wrong input. So here is the reframe. It is where this whole series lands. An AI agent is at its core an identity with autonomy, which means everything we have learned applies, just with higher stakes and faster consequences. Govern its access before you grant its autonomy. Two specifics. First, do not treat all agents the same. A read-only agent that summarizes documents and a fully autonomous agent that can move money or change infrastructure are not the same risk. And applying one uniform policy to both fails in both directions. It over restricts the simple ones, which pushes teams to build in the shadows, and it under restricts the dangerous ones. Match access and oversight to what each agent actually does. Second, and the security agencies have been explicit about this. Never grant agents broad or unrestricted standing access to sensitive data. Everything we said about least privilege and just in time access matters more for agents and not less, because an agent will use every bit of reach it has instantly, and it can be tricked into using it against you. Let me make the reframe a little bit more operational, because govern access before autonomy is the whole answer. First, do not treat all agents the same. Gartner has been explicit that uniform governance across agents fails in both directions. It over-restricts simple read-only agents, which pushes team to build them in the shadows, and it under-restricts autonomous ones, which is where the real damage happens. Match access and oversight to what each agent actually does. And second, CISA and NSA have said this directly in joint guidance. Never grant agents broad or unrestricted standing access to sensitive data. Everything we said about least privilege, just in time access matters more here and not less, because an agent will use every permission it holds instantly, and it can be tricked into using it against you. The agent is an identity with autonomy. Govern the identity first. 3 moves before you ship a single agent into production. First, treat every agent as an identity. Give it an owner, scoped credentials, and a life cycle exactly like any other non-human identity from episode 37. An agent with standing broad access is the largest key you have ever cut, and you would never hand that to a new employee on day 1. Second, govern by autonomy level. Classify your agents by what they can actually do, from read-only observation up to autonomous action, and match your controls to each tier. A summarizing agent and an action-taking agent need very different leashes, and one uniform policy will fail you. Third, monitor the actions, not just the model. Half of production agents run unsecured today. Instrument what each agent accesses and does in real time, so you can see and stop harm at the speed the agent operates. Because reviewing the logs next week is not oversight when the agent acted 1,000 times last night. On treating every agent as an identity, apply the exact discipline from the start of this arc. An owner, scoped credentials, a documented reason to exist, and a life cycle around it. An agent with standing broad access is the largest key you have ever cut, and you would never hand that to a new hire on day 1, so do not hand it to a piece of autonomous software. On governing by autonomy level, classify agents from read-only up to fully autonomous and match the leash to the tier, so do not forget it. So again, I repeat it. So on monitoring the actions, also remember that half of production agents run blind today. So instrument what each agent accesses and does in real time. All right. And one more important thing, please do read my book on jailbreaking LLMs. That's going to be super helpful, especially with regards to AI agents and use of LLMs and models in an enterprise environment. And if you're interested in more things around data security per se, across different channels in your organization, be it on-prem, cloud, cloud applications, cloud infrastructure, or network, for any of the data loss prevention channels, if you're interested in data security, then do read my previous book on autonomous data security. So these two books I really recommend. They are written especially to make sure that the organizations and enterprises out there are benefited in this AI era. All right. So now coming to the close of this arc where we began it, stop guarding doors, start governing data. Across these 10 episodes, last 10, we followed the risk everywhere it went. To the machines that outnumber your people, to the vendors who hold your data, to the open doors you cannot patch fast enough, the data walking out through AI tools, the attacker on the phone, the ransomware whose warning signs sat unread, the dollar figure your board members remember, the axis nobody uses, and the clock the regulators put on the truth. And it all converges here on the agent. Because the agent is every one of those risks at once, moving at machine speed. The perimeter was never the thing worth defending. The data was, and the access to it was. The agents did not create the truth, they just made it non-negotiable. Thank you for following this arc with me, Priyanka Neela Krishnan, and if it changed how you think about even one of these, that is the whole point. I am Priyanka Neela Krishnan, and this has been my independent look at enterprise data security, and I'll see you in the next one. So we close the arc where we began it, and I want to draw the whole thread together. Across these 10 episodes, we followed the risk everywhere it went, and we landed to the machines that outnumber your people, to the vendors who hold your data, to the doors you cannot patch fast enough, to the data walking out through AI tools, the attacker on the phone, the ransomware whose warning sat unread, the number your board basically remembers, the axis nobody uses, and the clock on the regulators have put on the truth, and it all converged with our AI agents. All right, thank you for following me on this one. This is me, Priyanka Neela Krishnan. I'll meet you on the next one. Until then, stay safe, stay secure, and please do check out my couple books on security. One is Autonomous Data Security, and the second book is Jailbreaking LLMs. All right, I'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.